Hey guys, Lupe here in week 3 of quarantine, like the rest of the world. Luckily, though, we have another film that might be worth watching joining the on-demand selection. It's called Sea Fever, and it stars the beautiful Connie Nielsen from Wonder Woman and Gladiator, Dougray Scott, who's currently starring in Batwoman, and Hermione Corfield. She appeared in a movie called Rush Creek and in the series The Helicon. It's directed by Neasa Hardiman, who's fairly new to the scene. And since we're living in precarious times, Sea Fever, funny enough, touches upon the very issues that we're dealing with today during this pandemic. And I'll explain later how that is. But yes, Sea Fever is new on demand starting April 10th. And it's a sci-fi thriller that takes place on the ocean. So Hermione Corfield plays Siobhan. She's a socially awkward marine biology student who pays to join the crew of a ragged fishing trawler to study marine life in the Atlantic. Gerard and Freya are a married couple played by Nielsen and Scott who are in desperate times facing some hardships, so they take on the marine biology student out of need versus want. Second of all, Siobhan's red hair is a bad omen to the crew, and they were right. When they go out into their fishing expedition, a strange creature latches onto their boat, and crew members suddenly become infected from its secretions. Now, when you're watching Sea Fever, it definitely takes plot points from sci-fi classics like Alien, The King, and tons of underwater sci-fi action movies. So you'll see a lot of familiar elements when you're watching Sea Fever. However, the director steers this ship in an unexpected direction. What's refreshing about this movie is the action and the leading character. We have Siobhan, who's socially awkward, and there's a hint that she may be on the spectrum of autism. She's largely unfazed by what's going on. She stays to herself. She's a bit awkward. But it actually serves when they need to jump into action and get rid of this foreign thing on their boat. However, the action is largely grounded and based on science rather than on blockbuster level spectacle, which was surprising. So Cornfield's Siobhan leads the efforts to save the crew, but not in a badass way. She actually uses her intellect and knowledge of marine life to come up with scientific solutions to their dilemma. She's fearless, very focused, and unfazed, like I mentioned, of their dire situation. But she always comes through with a course of action. And it was refreshing in the sense that while everyone else is panicking, she maintains her cool and always has a solution to it. And at first it's awkward to see her not panic, but it's actually refreshing that someone who might be suffering from autism takes the lead, and I don't want to say if she's successful or not, but takes the lead and essentially guides these crew members to do the right thing. Now, what is the right thing? Well, the right thing is once the crew becomes infected, Siobhan urges the crew to isolate instead of docking to avoid spreading on land. Of course, characters just want to get home. They don't want to stay on the boat. So therefore, there's a moral dilemma of whether you sacrifice yourself for the greater good or become selfish in your wants. There's very good performances by the cast, and the cast didn't fill your archetypes of when you see these kind of films. So usually in these types of films, you always have a mold, whether it be the smartass, the loose cannon, or the scientist who wants to study the anomaly versus destroying it for the greater good. Hardiman forgoes those cliches for compelling characters who are all likable and they all work to survive. So there's really no loose cannon. I mean, that is not to say there isn't conflict. Once they become infected, some members become a little erratic. And there's some things that happen that you might be looking away because they're very gross. So those kind of things were unexpected. Even though the storyline seems familiar to other past films, the direction it goes into, it surprises you. Not at every turn, but at most turns. In essence, this is a monster movie. kind of in the vein of a Frankenstein or Godzilla, where there's always kind of a reflection or commentary on the times, and sea fever is no different. However, the monster in question is a metaphor for the ecological debate. Humans trespassing on Mother Nature rarely ends well, and so various ethics are at play here, and then it becomes too eerily similar to the current situation with COVID-19. The fact that these characters are having a debate of whether they should stay on the boat and face certain death, or take the boat to land where it could possibly spread to the world. So obviously that has a lot of reality set in the story. So it's a powerful message in this film, and it'll really resonate with everyone watching this because it's life imitating art. The cast are phenomenal and compelling, with special props to Hermione Corfield's solid performance as a hero whose superpower is knowledge and science. Hence, we find ourselves in this current dilemma. So, since people around the world have nothing but time to spare, Sea Fever is a good choice with solid action and suspense. It also reminds us of the current struggle. Do we sacrifice for the greater good or make selfish decisions? Sea Fever is now on demand.